anesthesia ready?
The dry, scorching winds of South Africa's Koligati Reserve blew relentlessly across the endless golden grasslands. The air shimmered with heat, and the distant horizon seemed to melt into dust. Rangers had witnessed countless scenes in these wild lands, but nothing prepared them for the figure emerging near the observation deck that morning. A lioness appeared, her gait regal, yet her appearance betrayed a troubling secret. Her belly was grotesquely swollen, unlike anything the team had seen. At first glance, she seemed majestic, the embodiment of the wild. But something was deeply wrong. Her movements were slow and deliberate. Each step seemed to weigh her down, as if she carried a secret burden. Rangers quickly grabbed binoculars, scanning her from the observation deck. Was she pregnant? Or was an unseen illness eating away from the inside? They temporarily named her Miss Big Belly, documenting her movements, her hunting patterns, and her unusual behavior. For 2 long weeks, the Rangers watched. Her belly grew heavier, making her lie down for hours after even the smallest hunt. One young ranger joked, "She must be ready to give birth to a litter any day now." But the team leader, seasoned and wary, shook his head. He sensed something far more serious. Her instincts, those finely tuned wild instincts, were failing. Unlike any lioness about to give birth, she didn't seek a hidden, safe den. Instead, she gravitated toward an old landfill on the edge of the reserve, isolating herself from the pride. The Rangers' unease grew. Was it hunger, poison, or something even stranger? They adjusted infrared cameras and thermal imaging equipment to monitor her at night. The footage revealed her lying in the tall grass, moaning softly in pain, licking her belly endlessly, her head hanging low. By the 15th day, the situation escalated. Miss Big Belly could no longer stand. Her eyes were half closed, dull with fatigue and distress. Her belly seemed to stretch to unnatural proportions. The Rangers knew they could no longer wait. Every passing hour could mean the difference between life and death. An emergency signal was sent to the Southern Regional Wildlife Rescue Team and the nearest veterinary station. That afternoon, a specialized vehicle roared across the savannah, carrying a veterinarian and anesthesia equipment. The Rangers moved cautiously, knowing the lioness was weak, potentially dangerous. A well-placed tranquilizer dart sent her slowly collapsing onto the soft earth, a thin sheet laid over her body to absorb the shock. Jonah, one of the young Rangers, and 2 colleagues rushed forward, carefully placing her on a stretcher. Every heartbeat, every shallow breath was monitored as they transported her to the rescue center. Once at the center, the lioness was examined with urgency. Ultrasounds and X-rays revealed a shocking truth: there was no fetus inside her. Instead, something entirely unnatural occupied her stomach. A strange mass, dense and rigid, pressing against her digestive system, causing severe inflammation and ulcers. The veterinarians were stunned. This was no ordinary medical case. Immediate surgery was the only chance for survival. Plans were rushed. 2 leading wildlife surgeons prepped for an emergency operation that night. Jonah stood outside the operating room, hands clasped, praying for strength to return to the majestic creature he had watched for weeks. Inside, the surgical team worked silently under blinding lights, preparing to confront a grotesque consequence of human carelessness in the wild. The lioness had survived the unpredictable wild, only to face an enemy she never could have fought alone, a deadly mass created entirely by humans. Every member of the rescue team knew that the next few hours would decide her fate. The operating room was eerily silent. Only the hum of machines, the faint beeping of monitors, and the soft footsteps of the surgical team broke the tension. Miss Big Belly lay motionless, her chest rising and falling slowly under the careful watch of the anesthesia team. Every heartbeat, every shallow breath seemed to echo through the room like a ticking clock. Time was their enemy, and each passing second could mean disaster. 2 of the leading wildlife surgeons, their faces etched with focus, prepared to open the lioness's abdominal cavity. Lights shone directly on her bulging belly, casting shadows on the walls. Jonah stood just outside, clasping his hands tightly, whispering silent prayers to any force that would hear them. The team knew this was more than a surgery. It was a battle for survival against the consequences of human negligence. An hour into the procedure, the surgeons reached the mass. Their eyes widened in disbelief. A boulder-like mass of plastic filled nearly two-thirds of her stomach. Plastic bags, candy wrappers, bottle caps, shredded fabrics, pieces of nylon from garbage bags, each item lodged tightly, pressing painfully against the stomach walls. Hard, jagged pieces had created deep ulcers, leaving the lioness's internal organs inflamed and vulnerable. One of the nurses, unable to hold back tears, pointed to a crumpled plastic sheet still bearing the words, "Thank you." It was a grotesque symbol of humanity's careless footprint on the wild. The team worked meticulously, removing each piece of trash with careful precision, knowing that any sudden movement could injure the already fragile lioness. The surgery lasted nearly 4 grueling hours. Every layer of tissue had to be sewn back carefully, antiseptics applied to prevent infection, and drainage tubes placed to allow fluids to escape. The team worked in tense coordination, speaking only when necessary, fully aware that one mistake could cost Miss Big Belly her life. Jonah, still outside, held his breath with every update, heart pounding with fear and hope. Finally, the surgeons emerged exhausted but triumphant. The lioness had survived. Relief washed over the entire rescue team. Tears were shed quietly, each ranger silently acknowledging their role in the tragedy they had just witnessed. Human pollution had almost taken the life of a wild icon. "We are the culprits," one ranger whispered softly, "and today we are trying to atone for our mistakes." The lioness, now officially named Tara, was transferred to the intensive care unit. She lay unconscious but breathing steadily, her body fragile yet alive. Jonah refused to leave her side, monitoring her vitals, ready to alert the doctors at the slightest irregularity. For 2 full days, Tara did not eat or drink, her body still recovering from both the trauma of surgery and the years of digestive abuse caused by ingested plastics. By the 3rd morning, a miracle occurred. Tara blinked. Slowly, she lifted her head and licked the hand of a nearby doctor. Laughter and cheers erupted across the ICU. The team had witnessed not only a survival story, but a testament to resilience and hope. Tara's recovery became a symbol of what could be achieved when humans acted with care and urgency in the face of nature's suffering. Doctors prescribed a strict liquid diet, minced meat and mineral water, to allow her stomach to heal completely. Day by day, Tara regained her strength. Her first shaky steps in the recovery pen turned into steady strides. Rangers visited often, speaking to her softly, bringing favorite leaves, and watching as the wild spark in her eyes returned. What began as a nightmare for the Coligati team slowly transformed into a story of life and resilience. Tara, once a victim of human negligence, became a living reminder of the consequences of plastic pollution. Photographers documented her recovery, and images of her swollen stomach, now emptied of deadly trash, quickly circulated across social media. Shock, sadness, and awe rippled through South Africa and the world. The story of Tara, the lioness who swallowed plastic, ignited a movement. Campaigns like Save the Wild from Plastic were launched. Schools began teaching children about the dangers of littering. Volunteers organized garbage cleanups around the reserve. Every entrance to Coligati Reserve displayed signs, "Don't kill the second Tara." Tara was no longer just an animal. She became a symbol of survival, a silent but powerful voice for the wildlife affected by human carelessness. National media covered her story, and international wildlife organizations sent letters of gratitude to the rescue team. Tara had survived, and in doing so, she awakened the world. The days following surgery were critical. Tara lay in the intensive care unit, her chest rising and falling steadily, but every movement, every blink was carefully monitored. Jonah never left her side, watching the rise and fall of her breathing like a hawk guarding treasure. Slowly, carefully, Tara began to respond to her environment. A flicker of her ears, a gentle tail movement, a soft nuzzle toward the hands that fed her, signs that life had returned to her majestic frame. Her diet was carefully managed. Liquid meals of minced meat and mineral water helped her stomach heal. Tiny steps turned into stronger strides, and gradually the wild spark in her eyes returned. The rangers visited daily, whispering words of encouragement, leaving favorite leaves and speaking to her as though she were a trusted companion. Tara, once a victim of human negligence, began to reclaim her identity as the fierce, instinctive lioness she was born to be. Photographers captured every moment of her journey, documenting the triumph of life over adversity. These images, Tara blinking after days of unconsciousness, lifting her head for the first time, taking her first steps, spread like wildfire on social media. The sight of a wild lioness, once near death from human garbage, now recovering with strength and dignity, stunned people worldwide. Schools organized sessions to teach children about plastic pollution. Communities volunteered to clean up reserves. Tara had become a living lesson in conservation. The Coligati Reserve itself transformed. The old landfill that had once threatened Tara's life was scheduled for complete cleanup. Rangers were trained to spot wildlife showing signs of ingesting foreign objects. Educational campaigns, posters, and T-shirts bearing Tara's image appeared across South Africa. The Ministry of Environment pledged to make the reserve a plastic-free zone, ensuring that no other creature would suffer as Tara had. Weeks passed, and Tara grew stronger. The time came for her release back into the wild. The rangers prepared a large, secure pen at the edge of the grasslands, allowing her to adjust and regain confidence before returning to freedom. Jonah and the team watched quietly, hearts pounding, as Tara stepped into the open air. Her gaze swept the horizon, calm and composed, and then, as if nothing had ever held her back, she walked into the golden savanna. Every ranger present felt the weight of the moment. Tara left footprints on the ground, but her story had left indelible footprints in the hearts of those who had witnessed her survival. She had become more than a lioness. She was a symbol of resilience, a living warning about the impact of human negligence on the natural world. The world had seen what plastic pollution could do, and they had seen hope too. A life saved through urgent action, care, and compassion. Tara's legacy extended far beyond the boundaries of Coligati Reserve. National television featured Jonah and the rescue team sharing their story of courage and dedication. International conservation organizations sent letters of thanks. Schools held lessons dedicated to Tara's journey, inspiring the next generation to care for the wild. A photo book, Garbage Belly, Nature's Verdict, was released, documenting her story from swelling and suffering to miraculous recovery. Her survival had sparked change. Communities adopted stricter waste disposal practices, volunteers cleaned up illegal dumps, and policies were introduced to reduce plastic waste around wildlife habitats. Tara, once a silent victim, had become a voice, a symbol, and a movement. Finally, one evening, Jonah watched from a distance as Tara paused in the tall grass, turning her head toward the team. Her eyes gleamed with that fierce, untamed light. Then, without hesitation, she vanished into the horizon, her steps steady, her spirit unbroken. She had returned to the wild, yet her story had changed the human world forever. Tara left footprints on the savanna, but her life left an even greater mark, a reminder of responsibility, compassion, and the fragile balance between humans and nature. From suffering born of our mistakes, a symbol of hope had risen. Tara was no longer just a lioness. She was a living message to the world: protect life, respect nature, and never ignore the cries of the wild.